Ohio State looks like the best team in college football in March 2026. Let's talk about Bill Connelly's SP Plus and why one Buckeye fan told me that it is the best SP Plus ranking, not in the nation, but in the world. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you are into that, hit that subscribe button, like this video, answer the question in the comments below. Do you think that Ohio State can go wire to wire as the best team in college football, according to Bill Connelly's SP Plus? And I'll add a bonus question here. Do you believe that the Big Ten can extend its streak to 4 consecutive national championships won? It's a lot there. So Connelly put out his SP Plus very early this morning, and a lot of people have gone through it. A lot of moves and shakers in there. Biggest regression, probably going to be North Texas. Biggest progression, probably going to be Oklahoma State, because a great North Texas team that Eric Morris put together last year, the best North Texas team of all time, basically got reskinned and put in Oklahoma State clothes. And Oklahoma State was really, really, really awful in Mike Gundy's last year. Makes a lot of sense. But we're not really concerned with even the conference by conference metrics. But I thought that note about progression and regression was pretty good. And one of the reasons that we can do all of this is because we don't have a transfer portal window in the spring anymore. So you know mostly what the roster is going to look like. So you can start doing your evaluations. Like I already started writing my 138 in February. It's funny. 2 years ago when I first did this, it was 134. Last year was 136. This year's 138. Lord knows what it's going to be come 2027, but North Dakota State slots in at 72nd in the SP Plus, and they ain't even played a game of FBS football. Meanwhile, Sacramento State slots in at $130, which is not dead last. Okay, sure. But at the top, it's not just that Ohio State is number one. It's that 3 of the top 5 teams in the SP Plus all come from the Big Ten, and one of them has not won the national championship since 2023. I think that's pretty fun, right? So we're talking about the Buckeyes at 1, and I'll get a little bit deeper in them in a minute. Oregon at 2, Notre Dame at 3, Georgia at 4, and Indiana at 5. Of that list, Indiana is the one that gives me the most pause because they have the most significant turnover of those teams in the top 5. We know who the starting quarterback is going to be at the other 4. Julian Sand at Ohio State, Dante Moore at Oregon, CJ Carr at Notre Dame, Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. And we know Josh Hoover is probably going to be QB1, but we don't know what Josh Hoover can do as an Indiana Hoosier. And we don't know what the rest of that offense and defense will do around him. I alluded to this when I did the segment where Cignetti ripped Nick Marsh for wearing gold cleats to practice and more or less set a tone, right? This is what I expect. This is who you are as an Indiana Hoosier. You are not the kind of guy, and we are not the kind of team that wears gold cleats to practice or game days. And it was significant for a couple reasons. One is Nick Marsh is probably going to be his best wide receiver. And you need an understanding there about how you expect your best wide receiver to carry himself. The second thing I think is important about that is it demonstrates just how many guys don't know the program at Indiana, or more to the point, how many guys did not come from James Madison to Indiana and play a 3rd year for the Hoosiers. There are a lot of notes to take away from the 2025 national championship Indiana Hoosiers. But one that I think is important is just how many of those guys came from James Madison. The second one that I think is important is how many of those guys are veterans as well as came from James Madison. Older guys that had either been on winning teams at James Madison or just wanted to win and were the best players on their teams anywhere else, starting, right? Marsh is coming from a bad football team where he is the best player on that team. Generally speaking, the guys that come to Indiana those first 2 years don't need to talking to about gold spikes because they're just trying to get along. They're trying to do it how Indiana does it. They're not trying to do it how they do it because they know how they were doing it doesn't work. They lose football games. Perhaps that message has now got to Marsh, who Cignetti said, look, he's doing all the other things right, but he got ripped for that. That might be the first time he's been ripped for that. Maybe it didn't happen at Michigan State as much as it should have. Old school ball coach. But I am curious to find out just what he does with Josh Hoover, who slings it a lot. And as Sonny Dykes put it, the dude had more turnovers than games started at TCU. Good luck with that, right? Sonny Dykes, who has coached Texas Christian to a national championship appearance in the college football playoff era. Gunnar Stockton in Georgia is good for me because Kirby Smart's going to have a team that's ready to go. They're going to run the football, and they're going to play defense, and they're going to be there at the end. Last year did not look like a year for Gunnar Stockton in Georgia to win the SEC championship, and they did just that. That league belongs to them until somebody else can take it from them. Notre Dame doesn't play in a league, will take its ball and go home if you do not select him for the college football playoff, but also lost Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. That's the top 2 tailbacks on that team. And that was a team that once Mike Denbrock was made to understand the best player you got on the football field is 7.5 yards deep, hand him the football, things went the way they should. CJ Carr, though, can sling it, and he's got dudes out there. He's got guys that can catch the football. Whether or not they open up the offense a little bit more, I'll be curious about that because the last time that Mike Denbrock had a quarterback that could run it and throw it, his name was Jaden Daniels. 3,800 yards passing, 1,100 yards on the ground, Heisman Trophy winner. Can CJ Carr do that? I think the capacity is there. Then there's Oregon. Oregon is tough. Oregon is tough because they should have won the national championship for 2 years now. They were the better team in 2024 until the Ohio State Buckeyes snatched their soul in the Rose Bowl. They were the better team in 2025 until Indiana showed up to Eugene, snatched their soul at Autzen, and then with extreme prejudice did it at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta in the semifinal. You're returning a great quarterback in Dante Moore. You're also returning a guy who played one of the piss-poorest football games of his life the last time that he was out. First play from scrimmage is a pick six he threw. They were decimated at tailback. They had guys that were playing on defense that had to play at tailback in that game. They were not healthy at wide receiver. Getting Evan Stewart back is going to help them tremendously. But it does feel like the opportunity to have an outstanding defense associated with an outstanding offense might be difficult. Dylan Thieneman had been a dude for them, had been a dude for Purdue, all up and down. But if you're looking at this SP Plus and you're asking which one of these teams might challenge Ohio State, it's probably Oregon on its face of talent. It's about, can Dan Lanning put them in a position to win in December and January? The Buckeyes are phenomenal. Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, whatever Chris Henry Jr. turns out to be, they'll be better on defense. They'll be good on defense. For them, it's going to be getting that taste out of your mouth of having lost the last 2 games after winning 12 in a row. You got to start a new winning streak. Can they do that? Are they still nasty enough, hungry enough? Because there are players on this team that remember winning the national championship. And I want to see and find out which is more powerful, having a ring or getting destroyed, trying to run it back, but having a ring.